So Hegseth spoke to the generals. So did Trump. What was that about? What's going on in Venezuela? By the way, Congress has the week off, even though the government is shut down, and much more. Let's get to it. I'm Adam Kinzinger. I was a U.S. congressman for 12 years and an Air Force pilot for 22. And this is your week in review. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. Let's just talk about what happened this week. It was pretty insane. I want to start with that meeting that Hegseth and Trump had with the generals, where every person in the military that was a general was summoned to Washington, D.C. And nobody knew what this was about. There was a lot of concern, people saying, is he going to come here and just do the old I'm a dictator thing and, try to get everybody to bow down and worship him? Well, no. But what did happen was, in some cases, even stranger. Pete Hegseth made the decision to give a speech to all these people that have been in the military like 25 and 30 years, a speech that probably was appropriate to give to, I don't know, a freshman at West Point, somebody just joining the military, a rah-rah speech. Why did he do this? Well, I think, first of all, it was really for an audience of one, for Donald Trump. That's all Hegseth wants to do. He wants to impress Donald Trump and make him think he's strong. And Trump certainly bought into that. He said that Hegseth did a really good job. Okay. And then Donald Trump came and spoke for 75 minutes, one of the most rambling speeches I have ever seen him give. It makes you wonder if his brain is drying out and crumbling. I don't know. But listen, it wasn't bad in the case of what the generals did. And this is the one thing that makes me optimistic. Trump's speech was incredibly bad. He talked about using American cities as a training ground for the military. He talked about the enemy within. And listen, folks, the one thing the military can't do is be partisan. And the one thing that we can't do is to make the military about Republicans or Democrats. This is the thing that everybody has to agree on. But for 75 minutes, Trump just simply rambled. But the generals, this is a good part. They showed respect to the president. They showed respect to the Secretary of Defense, but they didn't applaud. And I think that was a very important message, which is they understand that Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief. They understand that Pete Hegseth is their boss. But they also understand that they have a specific role to play, and it's to defend the Constitution, not Donald Trump. So it was a very interesting speech. I think ultimately Trump and Hegseth came out of that looking pretty weird. Also, there's this stuff going on in Venezuela. So the U.S. military has positioned 10 F-35s. That's like our new fighter jet that's stealth and was really built for if we go to war with like China or something like that. There are 10 based in Puerto Rico, as well as naval assets, 22 U.S. Marines. And the military has been blowing up these drug boats. I guess we're on 4 or 5 now. The Pentagon is not showing proof that they're drug boats. Let's assume they are. The big question is that legal? Has Congress authorized that? And secondarily, it's one thing if it's a terrorist where there's a threat to life and limb. When it's a drug dealer that's honestly delivering a product that America is demanding, even if it's illegal, can you really do that and blow these guys up in international water? Well, that's for the lawyers to debate. Look, I personally think that it's much better to interdict drug boats, to put somebody on a helicopter, which is what the Coast Guard does, and they'll shoot the engine to stop it and come in and interdict it. That way you get the drugs, you get the people, and it's the best way to go. But they're not doing that. And I think this is going to continue to be a big debate. One thing I can tell you for sure, though, is if this was Barack Obama doing it, the Republicans would have a huge problem. But since it's their guy, they're okay. Speaking of what are Republicans doing, the government shut down. I'll talk more about that a little later. But it was just announced right before I came to record this that Speaker Mike Johnson is giving Congress the coming week off. So they're not even coming in. They're supposed to be in. The government shut down. They should be in doing their job and trying to get it reopened, but instead they're taking the week off. I will mention too, Congress is getting paid during all this. Now, you guys may see some of these members of Congress will send a letter that says, please suspend my pay during the shutdown. Here's what I want you to know. Congressmen actually get paid once a month, okay? When you send a letter and says, suspend my pay, what they want you to think, because I did this too, during a shutdown, they want you to think that they're basically not getting paid. All they're really doing is telling the clerk to hold their pay back until the government reopens and then pay them. By the way, if it's under 30 days, any way that the government's closed, they're not going to miss a thing. So that's a little trick. I want you to watch that. One headline that's actually raised a ton of questions this week was a deal between President Trump and Pfizer to lower prescription drug costs for Americans on Medicaid. Pfizer pledged a $70 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing. They capped the drug prices so that Americans don't pay more than other countries, and they even announced a new direct-to-consumer website called TrumpRx. The story was everywhere, but the interesting thing is the coverage depended entirely on where you looked. Headlines were all over the place. The noise made it tough to figure out what's really going on. And that's where ground news can help you. So ground news is something I'm very proud to talk about. It's a news comparison platform that lets you instantly see how hundreds of outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. You can compare headlines side by side. You can check media bias ratings, uncover blind spots where one side may not be covering the story at all, find out what your blind spots are. And when you pull up this Pfizer deal in ground news, you see more than 400 articles. Left-leaning outlets highlighted skepticism about corporate promises. The right-leaning outlets celebrate it. It's a Trump victory. They're super excited. And centrist outlets kind of dig into the branding and rollout of what is TrumpRx. So ground news also gives you deeper insights so you can see the bias distribution across the coverage, checking how much weight each side of the political spectrum is giving the story, and even reviewing factuality ratings to understand which outlets have the strongest track record. With all those tools, you're not just reading headlines, you're actually seeing the full media landscape in one place. So if you're serious about seeing the world as it is and not just how one side wants you to see it, check out Ground News. You can subscribe now by going to my link. It's groundednews.com/Adam K. And for a limited time, you can get a 40% off their unlimited access Vantage plan. That's what I use. It's their highest tiered subscription. It's just $5 a month. At the end of the day, it's really up to us to stay informed. No one's going to come and do that for us. Ground News gives you the tools and makes it easier than ever. So if you want to see the full picture, again, go to groundnews.com/Adam K for a special discount. So I promised you I would tell you all about the government shutdown. Here's the interesting thing. I've been a part of these government shutdowns, and typically when they happen, it sucks all the oxygen out of DC. Everybody stays. It's miserable for members of Congress, and there's just constant movement to try to reopen the government. This one has been very different. It feels very anticlimactic. Donald Trump has basically threatened to sabotage his own government, talking about layoffs, permanent layoffs of employees in certain areas, which to me is interesting because he's trying to pin this on the Democrats. Like, well, then I'm going to have to fire all these people. Well, everybody knows that in a government shutdown, you're not forced to fire anybody. And Donald Trump has been like celebrating the fact that he's going to be firing people. So they were trying to send the message that like, hey, we're going to fire people because we have to. We don't want to. Donald Trump gets on his X or whatever, Trump social, and he starts saying, yeah, I can't wait to fire people. This is Project 2025. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. So far, the polling shows that the Republicans are taking the blame for the shutdown. I personally think that is right. The Republicans control all of government. It's up to them to find a way to keep it open. They've made it clear all year. They had no interest in dealing with Democrats and talking to Democrats. So Democrats are like, okay, cool. Fund government. If you need us, we're here, but it's not free. There's going to be a cost. So the Democrats have basically said, we want these healthcare tax credits to continue. I think that's good ground to fight on. I personally would have made it something like release the Epstein files and we'll vote to reopen the government or something like that. But we'll just keep watching. This thing could end this week. The big question is, are there going to be 7 Democratic senators, maybe it's 6, that will eventually vote with the Republicans to proceed to debate to reopen the government? Now, 3 already have voted with Republicans. So the question is, can the rest of the Democrats hold out? I think this is very good ground for the Democrats to fight on. But this is all, and I've talked to you about this before. Once government shuts down, it becomes entirely about messaging, about who is winning the message war. Uh, Honestly, I think Republicans are doing a little better. So the Democrats have been putting out memes and stuff, which we have to do. It's a new world, but they've been cheesy. Like one was this cat video thing, and Democrats, honestly, like as a party, are kind of stuck in 2015 social media, and social media has changed a lot. I'm talking to you all. You all probably know that even better than me. People are looking for funny, yes, but also a little serious. And when you do those kitschy things, people are just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So this is all about messaging. Let's see what happens this week. Looking forward, that is going to be, unless something big happens, what all the discussion is this coming week and the next week. It looks like TikTok is here to stay, by the way. Donald Trump cut a deal with China. There's a lot of questions in that deal. I think they valuated TikTok at like $15 billion. It probably should actually be valued closer to 200 billion. So why was it valued so low? What does Trump get out of this? Well, by the way, his best friend, Larry Ellison, who owns all these other media things and is a huge MAGA, is going to be one of the main owners of TikTok. It's funny how that works, right? Donald Trump's friends and Donald Trump always get rich. By the way, that's exactly what happens in Russia, just so you know. So we'll see. The big question about TikTok is who controls the algorithm? That was one of the whole concerns about why TikTok was banned in the first place, is China would tweak the algorithm in essence to mess with the population. So if you wanted to tweet or you wanted to put something on TikTok about Taiwan and your support for Taiwan, there is a 0% chance that that would ever gain any traction. So we're going to have to see what this final deal looks like. TikTok's here to stay. I'm on TikTok now. I resisted as long as I could, but since it's here to stay, I started one. So if you're on TikTok, follow me. And then there's this Gaza peace plan that I don't know, even by the time you watch this video, it may be done, it may be good. Basically, Hamas has agreed to release all the prisoners. I'm hearing that there's some conditions. In exchange for that, there will be a cease of military activity by Israel, and then there will be a transition to figuring out a governing plan for the Palestinians. I hope this gets done. I would love to see this conflict end. Obviously, there will always be tension, but it would be great to see the bombing stop. So again, what's coming up this week? It's all about the shutdown. Let's watch that. Let's continue to monitor the Venezuela military situation. Kind of strange. And let's continue to cheer on Ukraine, by the way. One of my favorite countries kicking the backside of Russia. It's beautiful to watch. So thanks for watching. Hit like, make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you back here next week for the same thing. Take care.